Hello, I'm Rachel Martin, and I am the founder and vintner of Oceano Wines. And this is our office hours for our tasting room live. We're going to talk about vegan wine, and our guest is Carissa Kranz. She is the founder and CEO of BeVeg, which is the preeminent international certification for all things vegan. And we're going to talk about wine tonight. So thank you, Carissa, for coming on.
You know, I have to say it's almost a dream come true because I have a history of hosting shows on law and crime, and it was called the Law and Crime News Network with Dan Abrams, who's chief legal expert of ABC News, and now I'm talking about law and wine. So how fun is that to talk about
rhymes, right?
Law and crime. Yes. So I'm the founder of BeVeg, vegan certification firm. We're the only accredited vegan certification standard in the world. So that's a big deal for those that are used to seeing vegan trademarks out there. I think it's an education campaign to teach people that there's a difference between a vegan trademark and a vegan accredited program, because the reality is anyone can pen a trademark on a napkin and pay a lawyer to file a trademark so you have a protected image. But to build a standard that is accredited by ISO, which is the International Standardization Organization, by ISO 17065, which is for products and services, and we built it in alignment with 17067, which means it's a conformity assessment program. And I know all these things are very technical and people don't know what I'm talking about a lot of the times unless you're used to these audits and things. But the reality is we built a program that doesn't exist, that no one else has. And if anyone else says that they're certifying vegan, the reality is they're not a certification body legally, and BeVeg is. So we are the only certification body in the world that does vegan certification. So that's really where we stand apart from any other vegan claim out there. And that's huge because vegan and the word vegan is legally undefined. That means that it's not penned into any consumer protection laws. There's no constitution in the world that recognizes vegan. I'm a little jealous of your glass of wine right now. I would really like one.
This is great about being in the wine industry.
But yeah, so at BeVeg, we've really set the standard. And for me, the standard was built starting with wine because I'm a vegan from birth, and I thought I was vegan my whole life. And I was having a tofu burrito with one of my friends, ordering a glass of wine. And I was looking at the wine and the beer menu, and she said to me, "You can't just order any glass of wine on there. You need to do your research." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Well, there might be bone char or fish bladder or cow's elbows and knees and horse hooves, which is gelatin, isinglass, or other fining agents that might go into making it." And I thought she was lying. And I Googled it, and sure enough, it was real. So my whole perception of vegan certification changed, and vegan claims changed when I realized that these claims were being used loosely. There was no accountability. Nobody could stand behind their vegan claims. And the law protected trade secrets and processes to the detriment of consumer transparency, which means insignificant ingredients, which could be trace amounts, don't have to be disclosed by law. And incidental ingredients, they allow you to round down to zero if something is less than 0.5 grams per serving, the FDA and the USDA, in terms of food. But for alcohol, it's worse because there's zero disclosure requirements by the Tobacco and Trade Bureau.
So what year was that when you were having that conversation with your friends?
Maybe 2016 or 17. I know BeVeg got its launch in 2017. I don't remember when that conversation exactly was, but I'm the type of person that when I'm a doer and when something impassions me or enlightens me, because that certainly enlightened me too.
Yeah, of course.
I just go for it. I don't think about how it might not work out or what might be in the way. When there's an injustice as a lawyer, I'm all about righting the wrong, and I have a passion for justice. So
Of course you do.
whether it's vegan certification or one of my court cases, if something's not right, I stand on principle in a lot of things. So
you say that you were vegan at birth, so your parents were vegan and raised you that way. Is that how it went? Or is it something that you decided early in your life?
So it's a little bit of both. So my mom had a vegan pregnancy with me, and she was raised vegetarian. She turned vegan when she was pregnant with me. She raised me vegan for health reasons because she thought it was the healthier way to be. And when I was a baby, I was breastfeeding anyway. I wasn't having formula and other animal-derived products. My parents did split when I was 5. So my dad was not vegan. And at the time, he was actually against it. Now he's enlightened and realizes it's the healthy way to be. But the world's also shifted. Back then, the food pyramid was you need your meat, you need your dairy. Since then, the food pyramid and the USDA has been sued and they lost, and now the food pyramid's changed. But back then, he was genuinely concerned about me getting my protein and whatever else I might need to be a healthy child. So at 5, my mom said to me, you're going to go to your dad's for the weekend, or every other day. He's going to try to feed you a hamburger or chicken and fish. You do what you want. I can't control what you do, but this is what it is. And this is what it is conversation changed me. That was my decision.
So were you always looking for products that were vegan? So was it difficult to find food products that you were certain were vegan?
I think now that I'm into the vegan certification business, I think maybe you're never really vegan when you think you're vegan because of what's going on behind the scenes. But I was always a conscious, ethical, vegan consumer looking for it. The reality is things are not always disclosed. And there are names for things that disguise what it really is. But I was always a vegan consciousness, and I was always searching for the vegan option. But, 30 something years ago, when I might be looking for Skittles at a movie theater with a friend, I may not have realized that gelatin was cow's elbows and knees and horse hooves at the time, right? And I remember learning that when I was young, and I was very upset that Skittles and Starburst had gelatin in it. And I wrote a letter to the company. And now they took gelatin out of Skittles. I don't know if it's
incredible,
but yeah.
Well, whatever. It's a collective thing. So, I discovered your company just through the internet. So I just want to say to everyone, if you have questions or comments, please write them in the chat and we'll answer them. And we love, the supportive comments to let us know that you connect with what we're saying. So I Googled around, and there are different certification bodies,
but they're not certification bodies. That's where certification has to come into people.
Right.
Every other vegan label out there that says it's a certification is not legally a certification.
See, I didn't even realize that, but it just seemed to me that your certification toward beverage, like you had a focus to beverage. Mm-hmm. And that's why I was interested in BeVeg and BeVeg. And so that's why I went for it. And that's how we met, of course. Mm-hmm. And, it was a rigorous process. However, I guess like the information that I have about everything that goes into our wine is quite easy for me to discover. Like I can read all the ingredients and I know that all the things are vegan because they don't have the animal byproducts in them, and the vineyard as well. So can you talk a little bit about, what you have to, the information that is acceptable to your certification for certifying wine as vegan, keeping in the conversation the vineyard as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the BeVeg program of BeVeg, and by the way, we have a free consumer app called BeVeg with 2 V's, BeVeg, that you can download, where we catalog all the vegan certified beverages and other beverages so the consumer can know whether something is vegan or not, and even help us update the app and claim their profiles. So what we look for is not only a complete supply chain accountability, but also the processes and the facility. So for example, we care about the storage room, the waste room, the crushing of the grapes. We care about the ingredients, the supplier of the ingredients, the source of the supplier of those ingredients. And for those, a lot of people don't understand, like, oh, it could just be grapes. It's wine, right? What else can it be? Well, like newsflash, people need to realize if it was just grapes, why would there be so many different wines on the market? And the Tobacco and Trade Bureau says that up to 70 ingredients could be in your bottle of wine. That there's like up to 70 ingredients that the Tobacco and Trade Bureau has identified that might go into your alcoholic beverage. So there's no disclosure requirements on alcohol except for the consumer government warning and alcohol content. So people are really in the dark. So a lot of winemakers, by the way, they treat their wine like artwork where it's trade secret and they don't want to disclose. So at BeVeg, what we require is a complete full disclosure of all ingredients and processes and the complete supply chain as well. And we also consider the factory and the conditions at the factory. So many products are made not necessarily at a dedicated vegan facility. So those that are made at a dedicated vegan facility may have less risk for animal contamination and animal residue. But those that are made at a shared facility, that's okay as long as there's protocol in place to risk assess and protect the vegan integrity of the final BeVeg certified finished product. So like, what does that mean? That means that there's cleaning mechanisms in place to ensure that product changeover doesn't cause animal contamination, or that means that the vegan production runs are held in a separate part of the facility or during a separate part of the day or on a dedicated day, or it means that the equipment might be color coded to identify what's vegan and what's not. Because some wines, it's very often that companies will apply to us where one wine might be made with isinglass, i.e. fish bladder, and another one's completely vegan, and they want to certify the vegan wine, right? So we certify the wine, and we also have to certify that the practices in making the wine don't contaminate the vegan certified finished product, because we don't want any incidental animal contamination in the final.
Right, so you just have to make sure that if there are, because we make our wines at Italics Wine Growers, so we use, it's not really a custom crush facility because they're producing super premium Napa wine, right? And there's maybe 2 other people producing wines at their location. So it would be cleaning the equipment, making sure that it's, completely free of all, it's wine. So, we're making sure that they're all sanitized, right. All the equipment, as far as wine is concerned, is completely. Yeah. So I do understand why that's really important, because that not every product is produced in its own facility.
Right. And sometimes it's a shared facility. And I don't think people realize that how many things could go into a wine, to find the wine, to process the wine, to make the wine.
No, it's not a common, understanding by the end consumer. It certainly isn't.
And I think another thing that's an education for the consumer is whether or not vegan wine will taste as good.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Well, right. And our understanding from the sommeliers that I've spoken to is that a fine wine is based on the quality of the grape. So the less you tamper with the quality of the grape, the finer the wine. But maybe you could speak to that more than me. I'm more of a certification body here and a lawyer, and I do like my wine. But my understanding is that vegan wine is a better wine. It's a finer wine. It's a cleaner wine, and it tastes better because nobody died anyway.
Yeah, no, I don't really think of it necessarily as being a finer wine. I just think of it more as, I don't want animal products in my wine. And like, it just, that's it, and there's no reason why a wine made from fruit has to have an animal product in it. And can we talk a little bit about, we have a few comments, greetings from the 805. So that's the San Luis Obispo Central Coast region. And then we've got Kurt Deutsch chiming in, who happens to be my partner and husband, says vegan wine tastes great. Of course it does. It's delicious. So let's just touch on the vineyard and how the vineyard can affect the certification for BeVeg.
Mm-hmm. So you want me to just discuss like that we certify facilities and how they,
or just like what say the winemaking process meets your standards, but the vineyard doesn't. So what is it about the vineyard that could cause the wine not to reach the certification?
if they don't have proper protocols in place to ensure no contamination. So, I mean, it's a good question because there's a lot of co-packing facilities, and people don't understand the difference between a manufacturing facility and a co-packing facility. So a manufacturing facility is usually the facility that makes the wine and owns the wine they make. And then there's the co-packers that have these facilities, and then people come to them with their own brand, their own ingredients, their own formula. They make it at that facility, and they want their certification out of that facility. So because of our accreditation, we demand that the facilities follow the protocol, even if they're not going to be considered a certified vegan facility, that for that production run, that there's things in place to ensure that production run can come out as a certified vegan finished product by BeVeg. It's really important because a lot of disclaimers right now on bottles and on packaging of food or beverage has allergen alibi warnings, like may contain lactose, may contain shellfish,
right,
whatever. And half of the animal allergens out there about are of animal origin, right? So vegans are not the only ones looking for an untainted vegan claim. So it's important for the product that wants to certify vegan and claim vegan to know and be able to do so without the liability that can come with a vegan claim that was made without proper checks and balances, because you risk then someone who has an allergen from animals to then rely on your vegan claim, and then something could happen and there's a liability. So that's another reason why it's really important that the co-packing facilities are following vegan BeVeg scheme scope production practices for the production runs of the private label or the brand owners that are using the facility for their production. What we ask is if the facility wishes to become certified themselves, that they then update their HACCP plans, their food safety plans, their quality management systems to then contemplate and pen in the BeVeg scheme and scope to define, vegan, to prove senior commitment management commitment to the vegan scheme and standard. And then also we want the cleaning mechanisms and all the controls in place of storage, waste, airflow, that they would normally contemplate for SQF or food safety or HACCP or BRC certification, to update their plans to also include and consider BeVeg.
Wow.
Okay. It's another level.
Right. It's another level for sure. And, for us in the vineyard, we don't use manure. No animal products are used in the cultivation of our vines. We use green compost for the vineyard. And I know that, because we also purchase our fruit, that I had to make sure that these standards were met in the vineyard as well. And so you could be, since we're certified by BeVeg, you could be certain that our wines are vegan. Mm-hmm. And, I have a lot of customers who are vegan. And so it really means a lot to them to know that the wine is safe. There are some websites that sell a lot of vegan products, and they're not always certified vegan. They could be called vegan friendly. Can you explain that?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. You cannot go to a kosher store and claim something's kosher unless it's kosher certified, right? There is a lot of liability with that. And there's vegan marketplaces popping up all over the internet right now, and vegan aisles in grocery stores, and they are not vegan certified claims. And I can tell you that retail chains are catching on to this because they are reaching out to us because they do not want to be exposed to the liability of that. Because forget about being vegan for the animals. Just put the animals aside for a second. 20% of the world is allergic to lactose. How many more are allergic to shellfish and mollusks, right? There is a liability to having these vegan claims and these vegan marketplaces and not having vegan certified products. And I don't think people really get it. And I actually don't even know if the vegan population is really my target, even though I'm aligned with them. I'm an animal lover. I was a vegan for the animals. I am also a lawyer, right? So I see the mainstream argument here of consumer transparency, consumer protection laws against fraudulently and misleading claims, because the consumer needs to be in a position to make an informed decision, right? That's why the laws are there, so we can make informed decisions. And we live in an age of information and nobody wants to be lied to. Period. End of story. Right. So that's why our labels are important. And, but right now, the truth is people are jumping on this plant-based movement bandwagon, a lot of money in sales and marketing, and they do not have legitimate vegan claims. That is hands down, honest to God truth.
Yeah. I'm sure of that. I mean, there's a lot of, marketing involved, and I guess like misleading the consumer involved just to sell their products or just to be, at the top of the Google search or whatever, what have you. So how many wines have you certified?
I would say we have a few hundred in our database of wine products that are certified. We're launching our new wine app version soon. We're pretty excited about the new UI user interface. So if you download it now, make sure you update it in, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because the whole UI is going to change and it'll allow you to sort at that point between vegan certified, vegan friendly. To answer your question, vegan friendly means nothing. We don't know what that means, but we do have in there the vegan friendly, which is based on research that we just can't verify. And then you can also sort the non-vegan claims. And then there's also the no info claims, which allows the user that's logged into the app to submit to us suggestions or change the vegan status, which then we as admins could improve upon as a database. There's over 1 million beverages at the Tobacco and Trade Bureau. And I would say we have information on about 50 to 60,000.
Okay. And what is the name of the app?
BeVeg, BEVG. Yeah.
And it's for Android and iOS.
Yes. And you can download it now, but update it in 3 to 4 weeks, because it's really going to have a whole new facelift. We're really excited.
Right. Are you going to do it by region?
That's a good question. So,
because it'd be really fun to have some type of map, part of it. So say you're in the Central Coast, for example, and you could go and visit vegan,
wineries or something.
Wineries. Yeah.
Maybe that's a feature to add on, like a geolocation.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, right now it was more, when you're in the store and you're shopping, or you're at a restaurant and you're looking at a menu and you don't know what to order, some kind of quick access to information.
Yeah.
But I do think a geolocation ability is a good idea for wine, or maybe
tourism,
Yeah, you could do vegan wine tasting tours, especially in Napa and Sonoma. I think that would be, and in California, where
you might be onto something.
You can run it. I'm done running businesses.
No, I'm not gonna run it.
I got enough on my plate. Someone else can take the idea out there.
Exactly. Yeah, as long as it's for the betterment of society, go for it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my God. So what do you think? It was so awesome to meet you and discover you and everything, and you do a great job promoting your brands, and thank you for doing that on your Instagram. You every week or so I see a post about Oceano, and I love that. So when you are at a restaurant, do you ask for a vegan wine list? Are you constantly advocating for this when you are purchasing?
Yes, I think it's important to be a little bit annoying and to allow them to know that there's a demand. And a lot of times they think organic means vegan, and they
Right.
really have no idea. Um,
That really people think organic means vegan? That's insane.
and a lot of vegan restaurants are not carrying vegan wines.
I know that.
So that's another problem. This is, yeah, I think when I started this back in 2017, I said that vegan is where organic is 10 years ago, but now it's been about 5 years, 6 years, and I still think we have like another 10 years to go, or maybe another 6. I don't know, but there's still a lot of education that needs to happen.
Well, I know that there's a wholesaler, and she carries vegan wines. Her company is called Vegan Wines, I believe. But I think it would be amazing if wholesalers would section their, offerings and having, because like we're women owned, for example.
I think there should be vegan wholesalers that aren't going through the certification process.
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree.
I don't think there's any credibility in those claims. I mean, I have a lot to say on that. I know who you're talking about too. And I think that there needs to be a lot more than a winery visit to confirm a vegan substance. It really goes into suppliers and ingredients and processes. Sometimes there's lab DNA analysis and traceability tests. And it's like a food safety issue, right? Even when you think about all the food safety recalls that happen in our factories of product recalls, most of the time it's Salmonella, Ebola, E. coli. Those are all contamination of animals.
Really good point. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that goes back to what you said earlier about all these marketplaces claiming vegan. And I think it's great that everyone's popping up with the consciousness of this. And I'm happy about that, because I grew up vegan where it was taboo and not cool to be vegan. But I think that it's time to take those claims seriously and with credibility and prove it. If you have nothing to hide, prove it. It doesn't cost much to prove the claim.
I totally agree with you 100%. So we have a question. Has there been any move towards submitting an agreed upon definition for vegan with the FDA, like what eventually happened with organic? If that happened, at least there would be consumer fraud liability risk for fakers. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think that a lot of this is on me to do. I've been approached to write legislation. I have the first vegan law book coming out in the United States this year, and we address a lot of these issues. And no, there is no legislation right now to answer the question. It would be very similar to organic or kosher protection legislation. But even though it's not, this is what I mean, vegan is not penned into the law at all anywhere. It just doesn't exist, the word. But BeVeg, by becoming an accredited vegan standard by ISO, which means we're now recognized by the World Accreditation Forum, we now have a legal certification body standard, which is a step in the right direction. And then the consumer protection laws that exist right now are laws that protect the consumer in general from fraudulent and misleading claims. So the law is going to happen. It's inevitable. We are on the right side of history. But the question is it going to happen from legislation, which is, I think, what needs to happen, like you said, like movement towards an FDA definition. And then, easily writing that and getting that adopted without being too strict on what it means, because you want to be popular in the definition to just get the word vegan recognized, right? That's a big step in the right direction. Or it's going to happen because of litigation. There's going to be some case where something happens where someone relied on a vegan claim on a bottle that wasn't really certified and vetted, and maybe it was made with egg whites, or maybe there was a traceability of the isinglass fish bladder and they had a fish allergy. Something will happen one day and there will be a lawsuit, and then the laws will change. But someone might die in the process.
I mean, honestly, I hadn't thought about it as an allergen issue. It just didn't occur to me. And
that's what makes it mainstream, right? That's what makes us mainstream and different from any other vegan mark out there too, because the other ones are by, animal organizations, which were totally for the animals. Like I filed a petition for rulemaking to shut down the wet markets when, the coronavirus happened. We did that pro bono, whatever. I mean, I am all about the animals, but I believe that our corporate messaging is something this is mainstream, guys, right? This is not just a plant-based movement. This is 20% of the world is allergic to lactose. I don't know the percentage on top of that that's allergic to shellfish. And then on top of that, 41% of packaged goods are kosher. So how many people follow a kosher diet that want to be able to rely on a free from animal claim because they can't mix meat and dairy? Right? They have to have the meat separate from the dairy. So to have a BeVeg certified final finished product, that means that those that are having a kosher meal, they may be eating a steak, but they must know that that wine had no mix with meat or dairy, because then they can have it with their steak. So there's so many people in this population that want this and need this. And it beyond the animal rights movement. And even though there are like 80 million vegans in this world. So, and it's growing 1,500% a year. I mean, the numbers are all in our favor.
Yeah. It's a huge growing category.
Yeah.
And it's all about education.
Yes. It's all about education. And that's what I think need to be out there doing more of, because I get stuck in the weeds of managing the business and the tech and the operations. And, it's a lot of just work running a company, but I think that I would be much more successful in messaging if I had free time to just talk to people and explain it. I mean, when I figured all this out, it wasn't because the information was readily available. It took research.
Yeah.
And reading the FDA rules, reading the Tobacco and Trade Bureau, and learning that like 70 ingredients could be in a wine or a beer or a liqueur. Like,
now that you're going to be an international certification body, are you seeing more applications from international brands?
Yeah, well, we've certified beverages and food on all continents except Antarctica, and our applications definitely are pouring in. So what we've done now, as we've gained our accreditation as a conformity assessment program, we're now partnering with the high standard certification bodies that are accredited by ISO for representing other high safety food standards like gluten-free or organic or SQF and HACCP food safety plans, right? So we're partnering and training them. We have an auditor training program. We're training them on our program so they can be a local representative for these other brands to do the audits on our behalf. And we're only working with the certification bodies that are accredited to the highest of ISO standards in order to maintain program integrity. So yes, we've partnered. It's easier to do this when you keep it as a paperwork process, but you really can't maintain the integrity with just a paperwork process.
Well, I agree with you because, I submitted everything online and, which is fine. It was obviously somewhat of a tedious process, but I don't mind that. However, it makes sense that you want to actually visit the facilities. So I totally get that.
Yeah. And a lot of things you can see on site that might not, you see the gaps especially in shared facilities where there's a higher risk. The dedicated vegan facilities, there's not as high of a risk, but even in the dedicated vegan facilities, you want to know that there's purchasing controls in place. So they may submit something to BeVeg or to wherever to certify and verify their vegan claims, but then there has to be controls in place of notifications. So we know if something were to change, because we would have to approve that change. And
right. So will this be a yearly type of? Yeah. So every year you have to get recertified because things can change.
Things can always change. It's like quality control. So long as there's production runs and things happening, it can always change.
Right. Well, that makes sense. So like for us, in the wine biz, we have vintages. So obviously it would be a yearly thing for us. So that's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But for something like beer, do you have breweries that are certified?
So we care about the processes as well.
Right. So if you get certified for like 4 different styles of beer that you're producing, the certification shouldn't be a lifelong certification.
No, it's ongoing. And so long as you're producing, and packaging and making, it's an ongoing certification.
Right.
Like with kosher, for example, they have audits throughout the year. All the kosher certified facilities, they pay one fee, and that fee means drop-in audits. It could be multiple times a year, which is one reason why. So we're authorizing certification bodies globally that are accredited to act on our behalf, and we're training them on the program so they can issue certificates and we can really scale this. But on top of that, we've partnered with one of the largest, or I think the largest kosher certification body in the world, so they can help us do our audits internally of everything coming to us. It's necessary. I mean, and it's great because kosher's trained. They're trained on already looking into all the technicalities to keep meat and dairy separate. So now they just need to add the BeVeg scheme and BeVeg scope and to recognize vegan. And the kosher rabbis actually, there's still meat with kosher and there's still dairy with kosher, but I like to see that the movement and the rabbis are saying, Carissa, in a lot of ways, vegan is the real kosher. Like, I love when I hear that because it really is. Like, I'm kosher by default. I wasn't raised kosher, but I don't mix meat and dairy, right? Sure. So, so we're working.
It's kosher without the rabbi.
Yeah, right. You don't have the rabbi blessing the area.
Oh man. Well, I think it's a great move, and it's in the right direction, and more wine producers should be concerned about their customers and whether or not their wines are going to have allergens, or that it's really about serving your customer.
And I think it's about liability. Right.
Well, you're a lawyer, so that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, because guess what? I ran a law firm and I sued people for a living, and I just go after insurance companies. And if you have a product out there, the last thing you want is a product recall and someone suing you because you made a claim that you really couldn't stand behind. I mean, it's a lot cheaper to do it right. And as people get educated, yes, it's the allergen market, the kosher market. It's so much more than the animals, really.
But you're totally correct. Like, it's better to do, it's less expensive to do it right the first time.
Yeah.
And that's with everything.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I remodeled the house and a condo, and every time I try to go the cheap route, it's more expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more expensive.
So like this is our wine, and on the back label, the light's a little bright, but we have the logos and the certification. So when you find our wines at the store, and actually we sell a lot of our wine in distribution. So the sommelier at the restaurant could be like, yeah, well, this is a vegan wine. It was certified by BeVeg. And so that means, XYZ, whatever. And, it's, so if you have an allergen, you can be sure that this wine, will not affect you in any negative way whatsoever. But yeah,
I don't think people realize egg whites could go into wine.
No, nobody does. Unless you're in the business, nobody knows it.
Right. Or crustacean shells, the bones of fish. I mean,
and it's just like old school. It's not necessary. Right. And maybe it's what people did back in the day, when they didn't have alternatives. I'm not exactly sure. Bentonite is also a fining agent. So, and that's not an animal byproduct, but I think it also came from, maybe it's cheaper to have fish bladders than it is other products.
Is it cheaper? I don't know that. Is it? You're in the production side. Is it cheaper to use the animal products? Like, why? I don't know.
Well, you know what? Honestly, Carissa, I don't know if it is, because I don't want, fish bladders or egg whites in my wines.
I know.
I don't want to support that industry. And so that's just nothing that I've ever, been okay with. So I'm not exactly sure about that, but we work at the highest standards at Oceano Wines. And so that was never an issue for us. That was never something that we were utilizing.
And you also get into the soil practices and stuff, which a lot of vineyards won't get into because it is too expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Well, if people want wines that are healthier for them, perhaps they're willing to pay the difference. I'm not exactly sure, but quality of wine is reflective in the price point of the wine. And then of course, region is reflected as well. Whereas say grapes from Napa tend to be quite more expensive than grapes from say the Central Coast or, other regions. So you have pricing based upon many different factors, but, quality wines and things that are more healthful for you tend to be more expensive. It's a fact, So let's see, our friend, Andy Frieden says, and he's in the wine biz, full disclosure on labeling is needed. Then the consumer will really see what goes in the lower end wines. True. That have fancy labels that alludes to a higher quality product when in reality has additives. Mm-hmm. Andy, I can't agree with you more. I think transparency is key. And, in the wine business, people are worried about, if the consumer knows what's in wine, they're not going to want to drink it because there may be, terms or ingredients that are unfamiliar to them. Well, it's education, just like we were talking about before. If you educate the consumer, then that's not going to be an issue.
Yeah. I also think that there's small space on the labels, and so real estate is prime, which is why.
But it could be on the website.
Could be on your website, and that's where I feel like we get in with the BeVeg certification program. If you see the BeVeg symbol, then that company may not have room for everything on their label, but you can trust that they were forthcoming with everything to a third-party independent auditing association for that standard, which we are. So when it comes to all those additives, if you see the BeVeg vegan certification wine glass logo on a wine bottle or any alcohol, you can bet that they've been through the process and they did disclose somewhere. Whereas sometimes with alcohol, nobody's held accountable.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. That's a good point. So if you see BeVeg on the label, then
it's been disclosed.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. And perhaps if wineries just were more forthcoming, then we can all move in the right direction together. Mm-hmm. In a way that's just maybe a little bit more intimate and more connected with your customer or the end user, mm-hmm. so to speak. So, thanks, Carissa, for coming on and talking about certification and really the importance of vegan products and vegan wine. Besides, the animals that we love so dearly, it's about more than that. I wish you all the best, and if there's any way that I can support you, please ask me. Because I'm at your disposal for that. Thanks everyone for joining with us. And if you see this at a later date and you still have questions and comments, we'll answer them at another time. We have, this is a good, Andy's back and he says, and this is a great question. How about the new category of seltzer spritzers that use some sort of clear spirit? Where does that come from?
Well, everything is trade secret, right? So we'd have to get the ingredients from them and the suppliers from them. I think.
Do you have seltzers that have been certified?
Yes. Yes, and tonics, and yes, and sparkling waters. You really have to be careful for the natural colorings, the natural flavorings. The governments allow you to say natural, but natural could be anything from plant-based, which is natural, to animal material, which is also considered natural. So there's a lack of definition on a lot of ingredients that you see on products. And then the way the law is, it allows you to not disclose a lot of ingredients if they consider it to be insignificant, or the colorings of what goes into it. You might just see the coloring, like red dye or what yellow number 5, like
Right.
what's gone into those
What
colors?
is that?
What's gone into these flavorings, right? Like some of the red dyes are carmine, and carmine is code for crushed beetles.
No clue. Didn't know. Wow.
And some of the vanilla flavoring out there and the caramel flavoring is like the butt juice of like a beaver. I mean, it's the secretion. Yeah, it's just the glue that you might see on bottles or labeling or textiles or the packaging or the bondage. You would be shocked to know. I'm shocked to know. And that's why I say we think we're vegan. I don't think anyone's vegan until we live in a certified world with a certified vegan marketplace, to be honest. You can only do the best that you can right now in the society we live in. And that's just to try to be as conscious as possible, buy as consciously as possible. You vote with your dollar, right? So if people are buying a vegan certified product, they're supporting the cause, but it's still good to support the cause of those that are making the plant-based claims. I'm a lot more for people that are making plant-based claims than falsely using vegan claims, because vegan and plant-based is not the same thing. Plant-based, it's mostly plant-based. Vegan means it should be free from animal residue. So not the same thing.
Right.
Vegan friendly means, what the heck is that? That's like wishy-washy. I'm vegan friendly. Okay, define what that means when we don't even know what vegan means in the law. So, we got a long way to go.
I agree. Well, I'm so happy that we crossed paths, Carissa, and thank you for all the work that you're doing for society and for all of us. So, and Andy's back. Sorry, we're going to wrap it up. But Andy says, me too. I'm shocked and appalled about the lack of transparency. I certainly do not want to imbibe poor quality products. Amen.
Well, your wine is one of my favorites. It tastes really, really good.
Thank you.
It's just really smooth and high quality, and you can taste it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carissa. Next time I'm south in Florida, we're gonna have a glass of Oceano wines together.
Where can we find it in Florida?
Right now I'm on the West Coast, like Marco, basically to Tallahassee.
Oh,
and yeah,
Palm Beach.
I'm not in Palm Beach yet, but I'm working on getting the rest of the state. It's a big place.
Yeah, but this is a coastal state, and you have the best name for a coastal. You need to be at like all the hotels here on the water.
Totally agree.
And if here and
if you come across a wholesaler that might be interested in BeVeg certified wine, let me know.
We do get a lot of those. I think that's a whole nother business is the thing.
It is.
And someone that would want to come in and do that and to have the BeVeg certified wine portfolio and go to the restaurants and distribution. I think it's a whole market. It's another business I don't have time for.
I know, but you have, how many wineries did you say that you certified?
We have a few hundred products right now. Right. And the problem is we can't keep up with the interest, which is why we're partnering with all the global certification bodies and the kosher unions that they have 100,000 employees globally. So the only way to do this right is to have local representation with local audits. So that's now where we're at. That's where we're focused. But hands down, the inventory's there to market to the vegan restaurants, to market to whatever distributors, whoever wants these vegan certified wines. Like, we do have the portfolio.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, I'm going to pass that information around, and maybe someone will start a business.
And another thing that needs to happen, frankly, is a BeVeg certified vegan wine club. maybe you want to help with that one. I mean,
Yeah.
we have our app, we have everything here. We just need to, basically, what do we, all these wines, people want them. People want them. So there's a lot of opportunity in this space, including the tourism side of geolocation of vegan wineries to visit.
Totally awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Take care. And thanks everyone for joining.
Mm-hmm.
See you next Tuesday.